Right. So good morning again. We are observing the Lenten season, and we are committing to 40 days of prayer and fasting. Along with our prayer and fasting, we are making the conscious and intentional decision to give up some of the things that might be in our way, and we're giving them up, we're releasing them as a means by which to clear some way so that we can focus on our relationship with God. Lent can be seen as a time to focus on the spiritual work of reconnecting to the things of spirit, because we remember that we are spirit, soul, and body. And we should never neglect the things of spirit because we are spiritual beings living in a spiritual universe that's governed by spiritual law. So during this Lenten season, it's our time to create the space to appreciate God and to take advantage of the relationship that we have with our loving Father. This 40-day period is our opportunity. Somebody say, my opportunity. It's my opportunity to overcome negativity and to engage in the spiritual work of eliminating negative thinking, releasing unproductive behaviors, and beginning new behaviors and new habits that form the foundation of the new version of you. We heard earlier, behold, I am doing a new thing. Believe it or not, some of you are newer than when you walked in this morning. Just the experience of being in the space of the collective awareness and having the Holy Spirit move through you has already made you new. And the good news is that each and every one of us has innate powers and resources that we can use to create, enhance, and change our life. But we got to be willing to do the work. The Lenten text that we are using is Keep a True Lent. Let me see if you have yours. It's all right. Do you own it? You own more than one. Bring it with you next time. All right? We'll be here again next Sunday. Just in case you don't forget what it looked like. You got it? Those of you joining us by stream, I want you to use yours too. And so today, we are at the second Sunday in the Lenten journey. And the power that we are presented with today is the power of what? Imagination. If you don't have your book, it's actually on your bulletin as well. If you have been using the Keep a True Lent text as a part of your devotional work, then you know that prior to now, you've already worked with a number of the powers on a daily basis, right? You've already worked with faith and strength, wisdom and love and power so far. And today is imagination. We know that an image is a mental representation of something that is not actually present to the senses. Put this in your notes. Everything is created twice. First as a mental picture, and then that picture is brought into expression by the forming power of our imagination. Within the context of our soul development and personal development, we apply the power of imagination by seeing ourselves as God created us. On a soul development level and on a personal development level, we use the power of imagination to see ourselves as God created us. What am I saying? I'm saying for many of us, we have a lot of different versions of ourselves, and that version or the lens through which we see ourselves may or may not line up with how God created us. For many of us, depending upon who we talk to, we have been taught and told that we are something different than what God created us to be. So how did God create us is the question. And how do we use our imagination to support how God created us? God created us as his divine children and as spiritual beings. God created us with authority and dominion over our thoughts and feelings. God created us with the responsibility to think, feel, speak, act, and react in ways that are consistent with our divine nature. Can I unpack that for a little bit? When I say that God created us as his divine children, and when I say that God gave us authority and dominion over our thoughts and feelings, what I'm saying is that there are some thoughts and feelings that I hold that if I am not careful, they will run roughshod over me rather than me being roughshod over them. When Jesus went into the temple, they said he entered the temple and he taught as one having authority. See, sometimes you have to talk to yourself and you have to teach yourself like someone who has authority and some awareness of the truth. Because if you're not careful, the stuff that you go through will teach you something that's not true. And the thing doesn't have to be true in order to be believed. And so we have to remember that we have authority. We are masters. Even if we don't show it. We have authority and dominion over what we think and what we feel. If I have dominion over what I feel, that means nobody has ever made me angry. They've only shown me, Kathy, where the anger is. If I have authority and dominion over the way that I think, if I am the author of my think, then I get to choose what I will think and release what I won't think. If I have dominion, then that means I have the power to feel in a way that is inconsistent with what I feel like I could have used the extra hour of sleep. I feel like that. But because I have dominion over the way that I feel, I'm ready to do cartwheels. I won't do it for you this morning. But I had to decide that I want to feel differently than how I felt when I woke up. And watch this. It's not a special thing. It's how we were created. To have authority and dominion, to have mastery over what shows up in our life, world, and affairs. How do we use it? We use it through the power of our imagination. Open your book. Let's read together. For those of you who have it, if you have the book, you got to read real loud so that we can all do it together. All right? You ready? What's the power we're working with today? Imagination. Go to imagination. Your book might be different from mine. If you have this book, it's page 154. You know I'm a teacher too, right? All right? You got page 154? If you do not have this book, go to imagination, second part of the book. You there? All right? And I want to read the first paragraph. We're going to take that first paragraph together. You ready? Let's go. The imagination is the faculty of mind which images and forms. Keep going. Everything that is manifest was first, and was brought into expression by, that's right, read louder. Man accumulates a mass of and life, and with his. That's right. So the imagination is the faculty of mind which images and forms. Everything that is manifested was first a mental picture. I don't want to run past that. Because there are some things in my life that I remember holding as images, and they showed up. There are other things that I don't remember holding as images, and they still showed up. See, the fact that I don't remember holding it as an image doesn't mean that I haven't given it residence in my mind. It doesn't mean that there are not things that are living in my head, images that are living in my head rent-free, and that they're causing all kind of drama and turmoil for me, all because I am not keeping my heart with all diligence. I'm not paying attention to the images that I'm holding. And if I keep myself open to the images from wherever, then whatever just shows up in my life. Are you with me? So what do we have to do? What we have to do is make sure that we use our imagination intentionally, because imagination is the ability to see things as better than they are. I like the Wayne Dyer quote. He says, when we change the way we look at things, the things we look at change. So the materials, first point, the materials out of which we transform our life are the ideas and the imagination. The material out of which we transform our life are the ideas and the imagination. Put this in your notes. In order to change the condition of your life, world, and affairs, you must transform the pictures that you are seeing in your mind. Why? Because my imagination is working with the ideas that God is giving me. And because imagination can flow in any way, it can either fuel my worry or it can fuel my faith. With my imagination, I am literally shaping and forming substance just with the way I'm seeing it in my mind. So I've got a question for you. What images are you holding in your mind? Are they images of health, Doc? Are they images of peace? Are they images of increase? Or are they images of worry? What's top of mind for you right now? What images are you holding? Because those images show up in our life, world, and affairs. Are you with me? With our imagination, we lay hold to the ideas and we clothe them with substance. Now, we know that substance is that invisible energy intelligence. Is that right? We know that substance is that which the images we hold in our minds begins to press in on. Our founder, Reverend Dr. Johnny Coleman, would say substance is like a cookie dough. And the images we hold literally press into and shape out the substance. And the good news is, you ready for the good news? If you use your imagination the right way and you use it to impress upon substance, that same formula will be there for you to use it the next time and the next time and the next time. Because one of the things that we know is that we can never use it so much that we use it up. So whenever we use our imagination to shape and form substance, we are using it in a way that cannot be depleted. So you might as well use as much of it as you need. Does that make sense? Faith and imagination are two of the powers that we use to say yes to the impulses and the ideas that God gives us. But we are so powerful, sometimes even more powerful than we realize. You've heard me tell the story about Nick Sitzman. Nick was a railroad yardsman, and he was a diligent worker. He was a loving husband, loving father. He's a hardworking man. And one summer day, the train crew were wrapping up early. They were celebrating retirement of one of the bosses. And so as the crew started to clear out, Nick, because he was a diligent worker, just went to check the last few cars to make sure that everything was okay. And Nick accidentally got locked in the refrigerator car. When he got locked in the refrigerator car, like most of us, he began to bang on the door and try to make some noise and stir up some commotion, hoping that someone would hear him. As a matter of fact, he beat on the door so long that his hands became bloody and his voice became hoarse. Sure enough, nobody ever came. A few hours go by. A few more hours go by. Then it's the following morning, when his coworkers got to work the following morning, they went into the car and they found Nick. And when they found Nick, they saw carved into the wood floor, "Tell my wife and children that I love them. He says, it's freezing cold, and I don't think I'll be here much longer." When they found him, he was dead. Now, the ironic thing is, the refrigerator car that Nick was locked in didn't work. It was inoperable. And when they looked at the temperature recordings, the boxcar never got colder than 55 degrees. So it was never cold enough to cost him his life. But because he imagined himself freezing to death. Now, if you can imagine yourself to death, can't you imagine yourself to health? If you can imagine yourself freezing, can't you imagine yourself free? If you can imagine yourself locked in, can't you imagine yourself expanding and increasing? It's the same power. The only question is, how will I use it? It's the power of your imagination, and your imagination is more powerful than you could ever imagine. It's how we transform our life. It's how we get in touch with God's image for us. If you got your text, let's read some more. I want to skip down to the third paragraph. Do you see where it says the Spirit of truth? All right, let's take that together real loud. The Spirit of truth projects into the chamber of imagery pictures that rightly understood will be a sure guide for all people who believe in the omnipresence of mind. The imagination will carry out any idea or set of ideas that the I am reflects into it. All right. Second point is that proper and consistent use of our imagination can naturally help us push out the negative thoughts. If we use our imagination the right way, we can naturally begin to eliminate negative thinking. If this glass was filled with dark water, and I was just to begin to pour pure water into it, or it didn't have to be filled with dark water. Let's just say it was filled with tea. If it were filled with tea, and I took a just clear, pure water and just began to pour it into the glass that once held the tea, the pure water would eventually push out, yes, the tea, until there was only your imagination. With the thoughts that you hold, the more consistently you hold them, the more diligently you hold them, the greater degree of tenacity with which you hold them has the ability to just consistently flush out the negativity. See, if you will use your imagination, you don't have to think, I'm going to eliminate negative thinking. I'm going to eliminate negative thinking. I'm going to eliminate negative thinking. I don't eliminate negative thinking. You could just think, I am healthy. I am wealthy. I am loving. I am peaceful. I am joy-filled. What images line up with this idea of I am healthy? What do you see? How do you see yourself when you see yourself as healthy? What does that show up? Are you spry? Are you flaunting? Are you fly? What shows up when you say to yourself over and over and over and over again, I am healthy? How does your body move in your imagination? Because there are two creations. The first creation is in your mind. And if in your mind you will just keep putting in that pure truth, I am love, I am light, I am power, I am strength, I am faith, I am health, I am abundance, then the truth that you put in, the light that you put in has to consume the darkness. See, it's not all that scientific, it's just work. And it will work if we work it. So we have to use our imagination to hold those things that we want and to not hold the things that don't work for us. As you heard in my story about Nick, when we fear the worst often happens to us. That's why one writer said that fear is the wrong use of our imagination. It is our anticipating the worst, and when we anticipate the worst, the best cannot happen. Let me give you some stats on how most people use their imagination. 40% of people use their imagination to worry about things that will never happen. 30% of people use their imagination on things that are in their past that they cannot change. 12% of people use their imagination thinking about the criticism and the opinions of others. 10% of people use their imagination to see their health or to worry about their health. And when they worry about their health, scientists tell us that their health gets worse. 8% of people use their imagination to confront things that they actually have the capacity to deal with. And 2% of people use their imagination to see things not as they are, but as they desire for them to be. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. How are you using your imagination? Are you using it as your rocket fuel? Where do you see yourself going? What do you see yourself doing? What do you see yourself having? When's the last time you just let yourself be in it? When was the last time you just let yourself be with them? The creation happens in the imagination first, is that right? So what I want you to do, I want you to, when you're using your imagination and you find yourself having some difficulty, I want you to do two things so that you can begin to bring in more positive images. I want you to do two things. I want you to rename and reframe the image. I want you to rename and reframe the image. How many of you know that as a part of your dominion, you have naming authority? Let me tell you what I mean when I say you have naming authority. The thing doesn't have to be what it appears to be. Because you have naming authority, you can call it whatever you want to call it. Are you with me? You have the ability to name it what works for you. And when you name it, you are giving whatever the thing was the nature that you want it to have. I told you had mastery, authority, and dominion. The key is to use it. So whatever the situation is, when it presents itself, just rename it. Bills overdue? What you gonna rename it? Paid in full? Paid off? Relationship coming apart? What you gonna name it? Best friend? Opportunity? I remember what I loved about them before. Having some health challenges. The script says this, what you gonna name it? See, listen, every scientist uses the verbiage that's consistent with their field. You are Christian scientists. You are Christian metaphysicians. What's the verbiage that's consistent with your field? That's how you should talk. That's what you have to say. What they call it is not your business. What do you call it? What will you name it? Because the nature that you give it, God, is the nature that it will take. Are you with me? So not only do I want you to rename it, I want you to reframe it. Don't just call it something different, see it something different. How do you want to see it? I get how it is, but how do you want to see it? Did I tell you had authority and dominion? I get what it means, but what do you make it mean? Oh my goodness. Don, it doesn't mean anything to me until I make it mean that. Right? Listen, even right this morning, with all of the good stuff I said, it don't mean nothing until you make it mean something. It's just words until you make it mean something. Once you make it mean something, then it's something for you. So how do you reframe it? You change the meaning on it. You make it mean what works for you. Are you with me? When I was deciding if I was going to go back to school, because I love school. I love learning. I don't know if I love school. I love learning. But I didn't love academic writing. Right? I love learning. If I could just be in there and be a part of a conversation, that would be good for me. But I didn't love academic writing. But I always wanted to get my doctorate. Like there was just something about being a young black kid from the south side of Chicago, from the Rosenwald, who could accomplish that. Because if I can do it, anybody can, right? So I've got these conflicting interests. You can't get a doctorate if you don't do some writing. And I don't like doing academic writing. So I said ghostwriting. And so I remember, guys, giving myself images. First, renaming what I thought about writing. Because I had been telling myself, don't tell anybody, even for my master's, they had 2 courses. Either you could write a thesis or you could develop a training. Guess which one I did? I developed training. Why? Because I didn't like academic writing. And so what I'm naming it is I don't like academic writing. Dr. Ken, I don't like academic writing. Dr. Veronica, I don't like academic writing. Dr. Coles, I don't like academic writing. I want to join y'all, but I don't like academic writing. This is what I'm naming it. I remember getting a hold of this image after hearing a lesson. Then I just started renaming it. You want to know what I just told myself? I enjoy academic writing. That's all I told myself. The only switch, guys, was I went from I don't like academic writing to I enjoy academic writing. I enjoy academic writing. I enjoy academic writing. As I'm going through the course, you know what your topic is? I don't know yet, but I know I'm going to enjoy it. Why? Because I enjoy academic writing. Not only did I reframe what I said, I reframed how I felt. So it wasn't enough to just say, I feel like writing. I got invested in what I wanted to write. I felt like I had something to say. And when those 2 things came together, you know what your boy did? Your boy produced the first award-winning dissertation that any African American at that university has ever written. And all I really did was switch it in my imagination. If I can do it, you can too. This last one. Overdeveloped imagination spends too much time daydreaming and not enough time working to bring the dream forth. It's like if you've ever seen a dog chase a car down the street. The car goes down the street, the dog jumps off the porch, barking, chasing after the car. He can't generate enough speed to catch it. Goes back to the porch, another car comes screaming down the street. Dog jumps off the porch, runs after the car. He can't catch it. Another car rolls down the street, dog jumps off the porch, runs after the car. He can't catch it. See, the problem is not that the dog can't generate enough speed to catch the car. The problem is once the dog catches it, what's he going to do with it? So we've caught the idea. You know what book you should write. When are you going to write it? You know the changes you should make. When are you going to make them? You know the things that you have to do. When are you going to do those things? Are you with me? So the imagination will pull us forth. And to be clear, the imagination can be both underdeveloped or overdeveloped. But when it's overdeveloped to the point where we're satisfied living in the dream and not manifesting the dream, then our imagination has gotten out of whack. God gave you the idea so you could bring it to pass. God gave you the idea because God knew you could be trusted with it. God gave you the idea because out of all of the people on the planet, you were the one who was equipped to bring this one forward. God gave you the idea because you have the DNA of the divine to work this thing like no one else can. But the key word, the key phrase is that you have to be committed to working it. And we know that it will work if we work it. And so I just want to encourage you to use what you've got. I want to encourage you to use the power of your imagination. I'm a product of a reshaped and reformed imagination. And I've been able to, as I just say yes to what's in me, begin to see more and more things. There's a special work for all of us to do. There's something unique in all of us. And if I can just share one thing with you that I've been working on, as I'm working on a myriad of things, God is just working in this season. Thank you, God. But I want to share this. I want to share this with you because it's a touchstone for what's next in the great things that we can accomplish. So that young man is a byproduct of learning how to use the power of your imagination. Thanks for sharing that with me. Love you guys.